This is Micornus, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. We are continuing with the same topic that we started yesterday. Of course, this is part 2 today, and I want to embark on characteristics of a servant leader. Characteristics of a servant leader. As promised yesterday, we are starting with humility as one of those characteristics of a servant leader. A very, very important characteristics. Humility is very key for any servant leader, because that is an exemplary life that one servant leader should show, and is humility. Servant leaders lead with humility. And you would see that in the book of Matthew, chapter 20, verse 25 to 26. And says, Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it all over them. The ruler of the Gentiles lord is over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Jesus teaches that the servant leaders lead humbly. They are characterized as humble, or they are selfless in a way. That's the explanation. They're called selfless leaders. They are humble leaders, and that's very important for us to mark that. Now, this critical element of your leadership is how to serve the people. It is very, very important. It's all about humility, not an ego. Because sometimes you find the leaders that are too proud as they lead their people. They actually look down upon their people. They undermine them. They are not serving them with humility at all because of the ego that they have. When you look at the example of Jesus, he used a negative example to illustrate his point. It was typical of many Gentile or Roman leaders to demonstrate poor leadership by lording it over their followers and thus misusing their power. And what they used to do is to oppress the people. They used to be lords over their people. And as a result, then, misuse their leadership or their power by actually showing that against the people. They used to misuse their authority. And they're abusing their subordinates as well. And they say because they are leaders. And that is not what we're talking about today. I suspect that Jesus isn't speaking out against the leaders having authority. No, it's more because that authority should not be used with ego along with it. Authority must be it must be practiced in humility. And that's what Jesus is speaking about here. That we must have authority, yes, but we must lead properly with servanthood. And that's what Jesus is actually explaining here. Now, the writer of Hebrews, he commands believing followers to submit to the authority of believing leaders. And that's in the book of Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17. That there's nothing wrong in submitting to leaders that are leading humbly. There is nothing wrong in following and submitting under authority of believing leaders, the people that believe in the Lord, the people that submit themselves under the lordship of Jesus Christ. That's very, very important. And Jesus extends his authority to us as his church to implement the Great Commission at home and abroad. And Matthew chapter 28, verse 18, you will realize that he speaks the Great Commission and he transfers that to us. He insisted that we must go ye out and witness the kingdom gospel and win the souls into the kingdom. And that's very important. So that's the authority that Jesus shows upon us. And he shows that we've got authority as well. But we must actually follow, go out to do the Great Commission, which is winning the souls out there. Now, authority is not an issue, therefore, if you look at it. You'll realize that, but the misuse of it is very, very wrong. The misuse of authority becomes really misguided. It becomes very wrong when somebody is misusing authority by oppressing others. So there's no problem with authority. The problem is when authority is being misused. And of course, we have seen that happening with some of the leaders. Now, to further grasp the significance of Jesus' teachings here, it is also very important to understand the Gentiles' concept of humility. in contrast to what Jesus is advocating. Because there are some people that speak about humility, but in a different concept, in a different perspective as well. Now, the Gentiles look at humility differently. Because in the pagan world, humility was regarded not so much as virtue, but vice versa. So it was an opposite of virtue. It was an opposite of love. It was an opposite, actually, of the right thing to do. So it was seen in a wrong light. So therefore, when you are humble in the world, it's not seen that way. Humility was not seen as a virtue in the Greco-Roman world as well, especially by those of higher status. And they were undermining what we call humility. And hence Jesus came and demonstrated humility to come and defy their mental approach or their perspective about humility completely. Because Jesus wanted to teach what humility is. And the true humility, it is that which Jesus has shown in his time. Now the term that we speak about, in fact, humility, in fact, was often used in a sense to mean base-minded or slavish-like. So that they were using it that way, so that when you speak about somebody who's humble or somebody who's using humility, is somebody who's a slave according to them. So therefore, that term was misused in those pagan worships. So humility, therefore, Jesus came to demonstrate it in true sense. And of course, when we look at the example of Jesus, we would know what we mean by servant leadership, by seeing the humility that Jesus used. Now, I want to emphasize that. Now, the ever-present temptation for the leaders is to allow their leadership to become an ego thing, to allow their leaders to garner for seats and titles, to allow their leaders to garner for authority only and not to be humble and submissive. And that's the reason we have seen people that want to be in leadership just to oppress other people, just to have an equal that they are leaders, just to have an equal that have been appointed to rule over you. And there are people like that that are really leadership mongering, or the power mongering, if you may call it that way. An exercise of ego to subtly and to sometimes not so subtly dominate their followers, to oppress them and to make them feel that they are leaders. And we've seen that happening, particularly in some of the churches. We've seen that happening in corporate world. We've seen that in political world as well. That leadership that is being used to manipulate people, or authority that is being used to manipulate the followers. Now, with subordinates, this involves making sure they know who is a boss, using one's authority to put them under subjection, to put them in their proper place, and just to oppress them, just to make them know that you are a boss. And that is not a use or proper use of servant leadership. That is wrong in that regard. And we've seen that happening several times as well. Now, this kind of a leader is careful to let others know as often as possible that he or she occupies a position of prominence and prestige, and is someone special, and is someone who's regarded highly. So they will forever tell you about it. They'll forever remind you about it. They'll forever speak a bit more frequently about it, so that everybody else know that they are special, that they are in a position of authority. Someone to be treated with respect and admiration as well. So they will actually force people to admire them. They'll force people actually to respect them. So the respect here that they get is not that they are being respected because people want to respect them, but is actually injurious. They are forcing respect from the people, and it's because they are not humble enough. The glaring reality is that followers are quick to recognize when a leader is like that, and despise prideful leadership, despise what we call egocentric leadership. So those egocentric leaders, followers are easy to pick them up. Followers are able to see that this one as much as he's a leader, but he's actually very egocentric. They can spot proud leaders from a distance and have little respect for them. And most of the time, many leaders that are egocentric, they think that they're imposing themselves onto the people, but it's actually repelling the people and it's causing disrespect from the people because people don't want to respect somebody who's imposing leadership onto them. So please be careful as a leader that you lead what we call servant leadership. You become humble. You don't impose yourself onto people because you'll soon lose the respect of the people because people don't want to respect somebody who's imposing themselves on them. On the other hand, these same people are usually open, following humble leaders who have the right motives. So you'll realize that humble leaders, the followers are following easily. They look up to them, they respect them. And we've seen that it becomes therefore very important that you remain very humble as a leader because then you'll cause your followers to follow you easily. There's nothing to prove when you are a leader. There's nothing to prove upon your members. So if you want them to respect you, so they'll gladly follow you as well. But you need to be humble and not be proudful at all, but submit and be humble and help them with a humble heart. Be a servant at all times unto them, and you will see that people will respect you. Don't consider people as beneath you, but rather respect them while you're managing them, while you're leading them, while you're showing them. In short, you can't become a leader of people without confronting and dealing with your ego. So you basically need to deal with your ego first to make sure that you are clearly a leader who's humble, and then people will be able to follow you. While some of the leaders can fool some of their people, some of the time, I want to emphasize that proud leaders rarely fool any of their followers at any given time because the followers can pick it up when a leader is proud, when a leader is pompous, when a leader is full of themselves. They can easily pick that one up. I want to end up here today. Your host, Micornus Phokane. Thank you very much for listening to us and be part of this great topic. And of course, we'll continue with part 3 of this great topic tomorrow, and I hope you're going to join us. Don't forget to like our Facebook page, Micornus Phokane, Facebook page, Church Governance Solutions. And don't forget also to follow our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to it. Click notification buttons at any given time. You will be able to be notified when we have posted videos of this kind, and you shall learn out of that. May the good Lord bless you. Allow us to check out right here and say cheers for now.